Thank you very much for calling in.
We're ready to go.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Oswego County Industrial Development Agency meeting of November 22nd, 2021. We have 3 members in attendance and 2 that are calling in. Board member Tim Stahl and board member Barry Trimble. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of our meeting today. So we'll begin. The minutes of October 26, 2021. Everybody should have got them in the portal. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make it.
Motion by Morris. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Motion and a second on the minutes of October 26, 2021. Are there any additions, errors, or corrections? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make it. Second.
Wait, you already.
We already did that.
Yeah, just a vote.
A vote, I'm sorry. Yep, a vote to approve, I'm sorry.
Aye.
All right, and any against? All those, okay, motion is approved. I gotta get
Monday.
this.
Here, Barry.
I'm warming up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
It's a Monday for everybody.
yeah, the treasurer's report. Okay, we had no treasurer's report that was sent through the portal, so we'll skip that. The notice of our meeting, today's meeting was published in the Palladium Times on November 13, 2021. And now we're going into item 4 on our agenda. On the Richland Route 28 North Solar LLC. So, who do I turn this over to?
Yeah,
Kevin?
I'll take that one. Yeah, so we heard from Omni Navitas, the developer on this project, at the last meeting when we approved the initial resolution. We have since held a public hearing virtually. We were joined, company representatives, Peter and Haley from Omni, plus the business manager of the Pulaski School District joined the public hearing. At the public hearing, the school district asked the developer to consider a 15-year pilot rather than a 20-year pilot, which would be our standard with our policy. And the developer agreed. They've gone through this similar kind of dance twice before with the Pulaski School District, as have other developers. The Pulaski School District is fairly consistent about asking for a shorter term pilot for solar developments, but the terms remain the same. $5,000 per megawatt. This is a 5 megawatt AC farm, so it'd be $25,000 in year 1. It'd be 2% escalator, but have a 15-year term rather than a 20. So today we're looking, and there was no other comments or attendance at the public hearing. So today we're looking to do the typical slate of approving resolutions. And then just a reminder, this is up on County Route 28. It's a 29-acre piece of a 203-acre farm with other buildings on it and so on. And the exemption, as always, will only apply to the parcel leased and developed as a solar property, or as a solar farm. So that's what we're up against, and we have the cost-benefit analysis here in our packs. Yeah, pilot, sales tax exemption, and then this app is the first solar app ever that's requested a mortgage recording tax exemption. But in all reality, I don't think it will ever get used because they don't have a mortgage. Yeah. So.
But if you don't ask for it, if it could be, you can't get it.
Okay.
You know,
yeah, now's your chance. So it's, you can see it. And sales tax exemption is logical based on their project costs, it seems.
So the current tax on the total property right now is $588?
When I calculate that, it's not the entire 203 acres, of course, but it's just prorated for that 29 acres. So I look at, how I do that is I look at the land assessment times the tax rate, and then just prorate it for the number of acres. Not because there's land assessment and then there's assessment of the improvements, buildings, so. Yeah.
$580 an acre or $500?
No, for the full 29 acres. It's, yeah, they're under ag exemptions, but that's the current tax income for that. Yeah. Actually, I don't even take ag exemptions.
Why do they want to cut down the length of the term of this pilot?
Well, with the anticipation that maybe in the future the assessments will be higher, that's a matter of some great debate in Albany, how these things are assessed, so.
Especially at the end of the life of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big unknown right now, right? So solar panels are 15 years old, so, yeah. What are they really worth for assessment? So, yeah, but it's low tax rate on just land, so the land itself isn't worth all that much.
All zoning municipal approvals have already.
Yes, already in place, yeah.
Did
Yeah,
we
the full
confirm the
package.
decommissioning?
I don't have any, I don't believe I have it, but they confirmed that they have it with the town, and that's typical with the town
Right.
of Richlands, so,
Yeah.
yeah. I assume that's true, but I haven't put eyes on it yet. Get that in closing
Can we
though.
get something on decommissioning for our records?
We get generally I think what
letter
I've
from
seen
the
is
town?
a copy of the town resolution or something
Right.
that accepts it or some other evidence.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, I've seen more recently an actual plan, a decommissioning plan, and then a bond certificate showing, you know, the
Yeah.
amount. So, that's always helpful to have.
And again, what we're checking is that it's to the satisfaction of the municipality, not,
Right.
we're not judging, this adequateness of the plan or the.
But they will send us a copy of it.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we have that
yeah,
file.
we get that typically at closing, yeah, or in the closing kind of due diligence process.
So hypothetically, if a municipality does not require a decommissioning plan, then we would not either because we follow the lead of the town.
No, we would require one, yeah. Well, I don't know, our policy says satisfactory to
The
the
town.
municipality, but I think what we would do is probably, we haven't actually been in this case, but we would, my intent would be to work with the town to be sure they get one in place.
Yeah.
So, the town should be the one to
Make
make
sure
sure
there's
they're
a
not on.
decommissioning plan regardless of whether the town asks for it or not.
Yeah.
That's my sense of what we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, if
right now.
it's a satisfaction of the local, municipality, it's us, if it isn't the town, I mean, we're the ones that need to
No,
be
we're
satisfied,
closed, what,
I
I
guess.
mean, we're closed in Richland, 2 or 3?
Oh, in the town of Richland?
Yeah.
Well, one was canceled, one is closed, 2 are in process, the Twin Omni projects, and then there's this one. Lehigh Road is canceled.
So any other questions or, about the Omni?
Sorry, 3, just, one's closed, 2 pending.
On the Omni Richland Solar Project? Okay, so I guess we'll go through the resolutions. First, we have on board the seeker resolution. Who,
I'll make a motion on that. Who's the lead agency on the secret?
The town of, Richland.
we have a motion, do
And
I
it's
have
been
a second?
approved.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion, do I have a second? Second by Morris. Okay, motion by Nick Canale, seconded by Morris. On the seeker resolution, is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the seeker resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, okay, the seeker resolution is carried. Now we have the inducement resolution, can I entertain a motion on the inducement resolution, please?
Barry will move.
Okay, thank you, Barry, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Barry Trimble, seconded by Morris Sabello on the inducement resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one opposed, so it's carried. Okay, the pilot resolution. Do I have a motion on the pilot resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Nick Canale, do I have a second?
Second,
Okay,
Barry.
second by Barry Trimble. Any further discussion on the pilot resolution? All those in favor of the pilot resolution? Any opposed? Pilot resolution is carried. Okay, the final approving resolution. Do I have a motion on the final approving resolution, please?
I'll make it.
Okay, motion by Nick Canale, seconded by, I'll second it.
Second.
Seconded by Gary Toth. Okay, any further discussion on the final approving resolution? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, final approving resolution is carried. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now we go to number 5 on our agenda, V Square Management, which is Healthway. The initial resolution.
Should go through that. So Healthway, this project is one that's been a long time coming. Some years back, Healthway purchased the former Caprera dealership in Pulaski, in the village of Pulaski out, kind of past the health center, right on the 81, the northerly 81 interchange. And they've been doing some things there. There were two buildings. There were two buildings at that site. One was the front typical car dealer showroom, and then there was a back building that was something like a barn in the back. And they had been using that particularly since 2020 with their explosive growth with COVID. But now what they're doing is demolishing the back building and building a 32,000 square foot addition to the front building. So if you can imagine what the plan will be, or what the finished product will be, kind of a car dealership front with the glass windows, the main entrance door, that'll kind of be the office space or some other light work, and then in the back behind it will be a tall manufactured building. So they
Thinking of abandon their older building.
no, this is additional capacity basically. So they're not closing any facilities in Pulaski, they're just doing a lot of reshuffling and trying to increase efficiency.
They have other locations in Pulaski where they're doing work in production too, right?
Yes, yeah, at the former Ironworks building there, and also they initially leased, but then they bought a building that was, it's kind of behind Key Bank. It's set back from the road a bit. It was originally, I don't know about originally, but at some point in my history in Pulaski, it was an auto body place, and it was vacant. Somebody bought it for storage. Yeah, there's a lot of power back there, but anyway, they used that, and that's it.
So those two buildings plus this building.
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, they'll continue with all those locations. In one capacity or other, they have different things going on in the different buildings for their production flow.
What are they gonna be coming to us for?
So, basically it's a pilot package. So, a standard manufacturing UTEP, 20-year UTEP policy, or pilot that would follow the policy. So it'd be an exemption on the 20-year declining scale on any increase in assessment. Base tax would remain the same. Then sales tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions that are kind of in line with their project costs. So altogether, are in line with their project costs. Altogether, $2.8 million project, which is just the building. They don't really it's hard to imagine not buying any equipment or fixtures, but they're building this building, and they're not buying any significant production equipment. That's just rearranging what they
They've
have.
already got it in the existing building.
Yeah. So they just need basically more space and a smarter layout.
This is a two-tier thing. B Square will own the building. They will lease the building to Healthway, who Vince is now a minority.
This is in public session, Mike. Just so you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Healthway.
Okay.
I think that's been in the paper, but
Okay.
enough said. Last thing is that they borrowed, you might recall for sure, last June, we did some kind of quick financing for Healthway, for the IDA and OOC. That's all been repaid in full, so all of those loans. So we have a loan and a pilot with essentially with the Calet Theater, which is this same, the owner of the Calet Theater is this V Squared Management, which is, as Mike was saying, Vince's company. So anyway, that's who would own the property. They have a lease, a 21-year lease with Healthway on the product, so. Okay. Exceed the term of the pilot, so that's pretty much what we're up to. The project is started up there, but.
Okay. Barry, Tim, did you guys have any questions or anything on the initial resolution for V Square Management?
Nope, sounds good to me. I don't have any.
Okay. So can I take a motion on the initial resolution, please?
I'll make it.
Motion by Nick Canale, do I have a second?
I'll make the second.
Seconded by Morris Sorbello on the initial resolution for V Square Management. Is there any discussions or questions? Okay, all those in favor of the initial resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the initial resolution is carried. Michael, I was gonna jump down to number 12.
Jump.
And, before we go into executive session,
That's fine.
is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Austin, I guess you're on about Peck Road?
Okay, so we've been continuing communications with the town of Richland and regarding their interest in about 14 acres of land owned by the IDA adjacent to Fulton Companies, the corner of Centerville and Peck Road, the town of Richland. And they have presented us with a few options of land. They were talking about doing some sort of a land swap instead of just doing a cash deal. Because this is the only piece of property that the IDA owns in the town of Richland and would remove our ability to, unless we were to acquire another one, to market and develop property there our own. So we were talking about a piece of property that they own. However, looking at it, there's some significant development challenges. This is a property they own. It's actually in the town of Albion on Route 13. So at this point, I haven't completely ruled out looking at other land they own, but there just wasn't a lot of great options. So the town is still interested in the property, and we're now talking about potentially a cash deal for the property. However, I don't know if we've ever had an appraisal done on that property, so what I'm asking to do, and I think we need to do this regardless if we do a cash deal or a land swap, just to know what the value of that land is asking for authorization to do a competitive bid for an appraisal for the Centerville Peck Road property. I don't imagine it'll cost more than, I mean, it's just land. It's not a building as well. Previously we've had these done for $2,000-3,000. I don't know exactly how much it is in today's market to have one of these done. It's not something that's, it's a rush. I mean, the town said they're not in a rush to do this. They just want to make sure that we're still potentially interested in doing a deal with them, that we haven't ruled it out. And I said at this point we have not done that, but I think regardless of if we do some sort of a land swap or a cash deal, or somebody else comes along for a private development project, we need to know what the value of that land is before we can sell it anyway. So I'm asking today to get authorization to, based on a competitive bidding process, select a company to do an appraisal for the property.
I want to make a few personal points in regards to the IDA and the mission of the IDA. This piece of property in the town of Richland is the only piece of property that is owned by either Operations Oswego County or the IDA in that area. We did a site profile on that piece of property a number of years ago. And at one point in time, Eagle Beverage was looking at building their warehouse complex that they ultimately built in the town of Oswego in Watertown. And they also wanted to see what might be available in terms of property somewhere in between Watertown and Oswego. They weren't going to close down their Oswego operation, but a town of Oswego operation, but they were looking at an alternative for a big warehouse complex between or near their existing primary market where they're distributing their products. This site was, and that's one of the reasons we did the profile on this, this site was considered by Eagle Beverage as an alternative to building in Watertown. Kind of a halfway situation. Fortunately, ultimately, they decided to build in the town of Oswego, which they did, and the IDA was involved in the financial assistance associated with that significant project. However, if we didn't have that alternative of the Midway location, they may have focused more attention on Watertown and not come back to think, well, maybe we want to stay somewhat local. I mean, it could have jumped. It could completely went to Watertown. I don't. This is the purpose. The reason the town's interested is, and I understand, they want a nice town barn on that property in lieu of any potential economic development on that property, which would vanish if that property was not available. Because we have no alternative sites in that area unless we could get Scholler to subdivide some of this property, or the Fulton companies to provide some of its property for future economic development. It's my view, as this organization being an economic development organization, our primary mission is to make properties in real estate available in order to promote and market the area to attract a business, not for the purposes of building a municipal project. That's only my selfish economic development viewpoint of this. If we start doing this stuff, Town of Schuylkill may want some of our industrial park property for a barn. Something like that could happen. Town of Volney may want the airport industrial park for municipal purposes. It's a concern that we would be setting a precedent that we're basically, and particularly if we sell it at a price that they would want to buy it for, which would be basically a low value, I would suspect. So probably would not be popular in the town of Richland right now, but that's just my view.
So
I still think we should do the. I still think we should do the appraisal.
Yes, I was just gonna say that, this has nothing, the exchange of land, the sale of land, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. It's just granting,
Right.
an appraisal for the property to see what its value is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're all right. I apologize for jumping in there. Get a little technology to catch up here. Are we at the point where should we do a motion and to discuss this? I would love to just jump in on a couple points that I had if I could.
Yeah, we can make a motion. Do you wanna make the motion?
I'll make the motion, sure.
Okay, we have a motion by Tim Stahl, seconded by
Morris.
Morris Cervello, to have an appraisal done on the Peck Road property, currently owned by the IDA. Is there any, now I open it up for discussion.
Great. If I could, I know I had a conversation a little bit with Austin, I think with Michael as well on this. I have talked to the legislator whose district this falls in, and I want to thank the folks at Operations County who were able to provide me with some of the history of that site, how long we've owned it, how we acquired it, how much we have into it, and some of the potential opportunities that we have had over the number of years since we've owned it. I think that it makes sense regardless of what we ultimately plan to do to have an understanding of the value of it. So I would be in support of this idea to really come up with an appraisal. It's been a while, my understanding is, since we've really looked into that. And based on some of the other discussions we've had about some of the holdings that the IDA has, Oswego County has, some of the long-term plans of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, it is obviously great to have, and advantageous for us to have strategic locations throughout the county that we know that we can help cause to be developed. That said, this site has been in its current state for quite some time. And as much as I understand where Mike's coming from about the idea that if we start to sell or move some of the properties that we own as a board, it could open up the door for others to do similar. I don't necessarily know that this is the exact same situation as either Schuylkill or some of the other ones where, especially Schuylkill, and we just got it. This one has been in our possession and has not, although I know there have been some options, has not moved in quite some time. And so I think we could do this without setting a precedent we would have to live up to on other locations. But again, I think the first step, regardless, is to find out the value.
Thank you, Tim. The only, the question I have, if we do, take action on the property, no matter if it's, you know, company XYZ or the town of Richland, the appraisal that we get, and also there was a fee, did you do a site profile? That was quite,
Yes.
you know,
We spent $25,000 to do a site profile back in the mid 2010 area.
Did that, was that Martin Dennis or was that, CNS?
no, I think it was part,
I think it was B&L who did that one.
because I know, when Austin and I met with them, they discussed various pieces of property that they were looking to exchange or, you know, work with us on. And, with those, you know, if we did something with those, I mean, it's not something we have to decide, but we consider recouping some of our investments on that too.
Well, that should go into the value of the property because we paid that.
We provided the report to them, which will help, if ultimately we do this, will help to lower their development costs. So I think it's not unfair to ask for some sort of, you know, as long as the numbers are mutually agreeable.
Now, they have indicated that they didn't need 14 acres. However, what they would want would only leave us with the wetlands.
Yeah, they need 8 acres minimum. It's a 14-acre site. They're looking at the spot that's closest to the corner of Centerville Peck Road, that 8-acre portion. And then the land that's further to, I would say, the east there, is not as developable. So ultimately, I think, you know, we're not at that point yet, but I think when we get to that point, I think it's, you'd almost look at doing an all or nothing kind of a thing. It wouldn't make sense just to sell the 8 acres.
Now, the county has a transfer station right across the street from this, and they have a number of acres. One question was, could the town pursue an 8-acre site on county-owned property, which is right across the street, same location? Don't know the long-term plans for the county to use that, but maybe the same thing, that they would want to protect that for the county's future use, as I suggest, we protect this for economic development future use.
I guess my question would be, if it was gonna be used for economic development, how much of that property? I know you told me this, Austin, could we actually use for a business or?
I think on the 8-acre portion that the town brought up, there was probably about 5.5 or 6 acres that was, you know, high enough and not wet. I would say probably of the 14 acres, I would say probably at least half of it is developable, doesn't have wetland. There's sort of a wetland swale that runs right through the middle of it.
Yeah.
So it does kind of split it up into 2 development sites. So it's not 14 acres of all developable property. It's probably about, I would say, 7.5, 8, maybe 9 acres, depending on how you do something. But you know, it's a great location in terms of proximity to the highway. I mean, that's why the town of Richmond is interested in it, because it's a great location for them as well.
Who owns the property just north? Is it Fulton?
There's a couple of folks own property in North Fulton, owns one of them. That's kind of a wedge-shaped piece. I don't have the map here, but and then there's another family.
Actually.
Is that a house on it?
It's one of the what's the county legislator? That family that's up there.
There's the property right here. So
It's one of the Urdens. It owns property north of that.
So here's the
going
large,
that Peck Road. Fulton owns the next.
here's this large acre. The spot here is probably about 5.5, 6 acres, and you got another like 1.5 acres here, and then like a little half acre over here. So it's actually 3 spots. They would be most interested in about this, and then leave that if they were to split it up. Here's the county highway department property is what we're talking about. They already have this here. There's a, you know, and we had said, hey, would you guys look at maybe putting something on their own land, and then you kind of have it all in the same spot. You don't have to bring stuff across the road. But at this point, I don't think that's something that they're looking at. But so this is the 14-acre site. Like I said, the biggest portion of developables of acreage is right here at this corner. You got a little bit of a wet spot here, swale there.
Do you know on the big section?
Yeah, that's what they want.
What's the current classification of the property, do you know?
It's industrially zoned.
So,
Fulton Thermal owns it.
okay,
We bought it from Fulton.
so I was just thinking in terms of the appraisal, similar to what we did in Schuylkill, where we originally had it appraised as farmland, but then we really needed an industrial appraisal. We're gonna be mindful of that for this property, but it sounds like it'd be appraised for industrial/commercial use, right? Okay.
That's correct.
In meeting with the town of Richland, I mean, they had, how many parcels did they show us, about 7 or 8?
It was close to a dozen. I
A
mean,
dozen, maybe?
it was a dozen, but there was really most of them were like either landlocked or had very, very limited potential. There were a couple interesting ones that were like near where the town wells are and things, but I think there would be some issues with trying to develop that close to the town wells.
And the property up in Albion that they're pitching, is it the one that
It is.
it is?
It's the
So
sand
what-
pit.
The Abundant Solar project?
Yeah, it's a sandpit property. And I, looking at it, and I was trying to get more information, that's why it's sort of taken a while, is that looking at it, putting GIS layers over it, I mean, it's a 30-acre parcel, so it sounds great, but then you actually look and there's a lot of wetlands on that property, and there's a lot of concerns about what you can actually do with it when it's been decommissioned and filled in. I don't know if it's, a viable building site. So also it's in Albion, so it doesn't necessarily help our issue of having a site in Richland.
Did Abundant pull out? Are they?
I believe so. They haven't gone forward on anything. Kevin, do you know if
they have left that piece of property. One, there was opposition
Yeah.
to a solar farm going on it, and two, I think there became maybe a problem with the interconnect cost.
Yeah, the town of Richland is still using that as an active sand pit. I think next year is their last year that they have permits for that, so they're gonna decommission at that point, fill it in with topsoil and other stuff. So I just don't know what that means in terms of being developable.
Okay, so right now, we're just looking at doing an appraisal on the property as a commercial piece of property. We're not looking for transfer of ownership or selling or anything right now. We just want to get the value of it, maybe set a value, including the site profile, maybe the appraisal cost. And obviously, Austin will still talk with the town of Richland, see if we can come up with a parcel of property or something that,
See if something happens.
see if something happens, yep. So, is there any other discussion on doing an appraisal on the Peck Road site?
I don't have any discussion on the appraisal part of it, but I was gonna ask you, if you got some swamp land around here, it's in between someplace, can you legally drain that area to make it a potential site, just because it's wet?
Well, it depends on if it's classified as a wetland, federal or state. There are situations where you can reclaim a wetland as long as you replace it with another wetland somewhere, either on the property or in a common property that you own. But you gotta be careful about,
Well, my comment was if it's bisected and it was drained, then you increase your areas possibly or size, but can you do that with underground tile or something of that nature?
It depends on the class of wetland that it is. There's different rules for that. I'd have to look into it a little bit further, but.
Well, I'm just bringing the point up that it could be, can be modified because there are a number of parcels, and I haven't seen the site, so I don't know. But underground drainage, for example, farming background, underground tiles sometimes can make that change and
Sure.
not do anything to the land other than just tile under there drained into something to make it larger.
We've been maintaining that property. We cut the grass and cut where it doesn't overly crappy. So we've been doing that. partially, I mean, we're doing it because we always do it for property that we own, but, we have had some neighbors up there that's, you know, said the grass was getting a little bit too high and it's occasionally, and, it's difficult. We had a good person doing it and they went out of business or something.
Retired.
Retired. And, so it's been a little difficult to find people, but we're getting it done.
No, otherwise I support.
Okay. All right, so any further discussion on the appraisal for the Peck Road property? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion is carried.
I just so those who could see me, I'm not pulling out the newspaper to read it during the meeting. But this is the county tax notification that's published in the paper. I was just looking for other properties in the town of Richland that are on the list. I don't know if you even track that. But there's several. A lot of these get reclaimed. You know, the people pay the
You
taxes.
said the delinquent ones that would come up this year.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't, and so there are some properties here with 10+ acres of land that I don't know where they're located within the town, but something to at least keep in.
Yeah,
Keep in mind.
I typically look at that list when it kind of gets to the point of no return of where they cannot.
January 28th, I think,
Yeah.
is the redemption time. So, you know, early February, probably get the list from the county treasurer or the county attorney, and then we can, you know, you may add to that inventory.
And I believe, I don't know if the IDA has acquired property that way in the past, if they bought it at tax delinquent auction properties, but
No, and I'm not suggesting that we buy tax delinquent properties, but the county often, or the town, the county forecloses for the towns. And so when the county forecloses, they give the deed to the town. They don't change any money, it's just, here you go. And then it's up to the town to you know, dispose of it. If they choose, if the town wants it, otherwise it goes into the county tax auction and it goes out to the, you know, to the general public. But there is an opportunity before that happens where the county holds it, and if we work out if we identify a property that's, you know, worth looking at, we can kind of cut a deal where we just get the tax.
Well, that's what we did with the Miller property.
Yeah.
It's kind of how land bank works, I think, too.
Right.
Come in
Yeah,
after
many
that's
respects.
published.
yeah, I think it's a good
It's just one more thing.
alternative to look at. You know, if the concern is getting out of the game of having a site in Richland, you know, I think that's definitely something to look at for sure.
Okay.
There's value to making the people in the town happy too, though, and the legislator of that district.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we approved the appraisal. Now moving to number 13, the solar pilot agreement. And Kevin, you did a little modification of that.
I did, and I had circulated that previously. The last meeting we talked about just additional terms that we would incorporate into our solar pilot agreements that relate to what we're now seeing as commonplace in the solar industry, which was just confirmed once again last week, right, Kevin, on our line. I mean, they made no bones about the fact that projects are being kind of packaged up and then sold to private equity firms to, you know, to finance these projects. And so it does constitute a transfer or an assignment or a mortgaging or some type of financial arrangement that triggers the consent of the agency. That's already in the pilot agreement, so no company, regardless of the pilot agreement, solar project or not, can sign or transfer their interest without the consent of the IDA. Right? But then what we're seeing with these projects, a couple of different scenarios. Either one, a brand new company comes in and buys the project outright. It's got all their municipal approvals. It's under a pilot agreement, and it's just kind of packaged up, and a new company takes over. Or in some cases, it's the existing company, but they're doing some type of a corporate restructuring or membership interest. They get a tax equity partner coming in, make them a member of the existing business, so it's, you know, nothing really changes. It's ABC Solar LLC, that never isn't changing, but the members are changing, right? And then a third scenario that we're seeing is kind of similar to what is probably coming up, or is it today?
OYA.
OYA.
Well, yeah, that it isn't on the agenda.
Right.
We're going to cover another business.
You know, where again, project is up, it's in place, it's nearing completion, connecting with all luck sometime next month, and there's a tax equity partner that's coming in to purchase a portion of it and wants some ownership interest. So what do we do with that? Some of these require an amended and restated pilot agreement, typically a resolution approving it. If there are costs associated with it, they should be borne by the new company. And then the other issue is, what does the IDA charge by way of additional administrative fee for these companies for doing this type of thing? So I've put this all in as an additional article to our pilot agreements. Standard agreements that we've been using for probably 20 years or so now have about 6 main articles or provisions, and then subsections within it. So this would be in Article 7, just dealing specifically with the requirements of transfer and assignment. I've kept it somewhat broad because we see many different variations of this, and some of them do require a full-blown, a new application and an amended and restated pilot agreement, and the whole process starts all over again. And some of them just need a simple resolution granting the consent. So I left some of those terms a little broad to give the board flexibility on what's needed. And we won't know because they're really case by case. Depends on what the company's looking to do. But we thought it was best to kind of spell it right out in the pilot agreement, and that way we can say, well, it's right here. You could be subject to an additional costs, and I put in there that the administrative fee payable to the agency is an amount equal to 1/4 of 1% of the total pilot payments remaining under the Schedule A. And I think that's what we had talked about. Not necessarily, the original pilot's based on the total project cost, and it's 3/4 of 1% of the total project cost. And what we had talked about was charging them a 1/4 of a point on whatever the pilot benefit that the company's
It's gonna amount to probably about $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be a lot.
This pilot we just approved, Omni Richland, at the average pilot's 28,822 per the cost benefit, and 1/4% of that. For each remaining, if we use the average, which is scaling up, but if we use the average, it's $72 a year for each remaining year. So if it's 15 years, it's $1,000.
Right.
Or 20 years. 20 years at that was
Well, that's a
about
15-year one.
1,400.
That was a 15
Yeah,
year
but-
one, so.
The pilot payments are average. That's always the pilot average for a 5 megawatt. That is also a 15-year average, right? The average would be a little higher on.
I think you did a good job in this, Kevin, I looked through it. That also, all legal fees and closing costs and everything are
Yeah.
included.
Yeah, that would certainly be included. And right now, I
Plus
think
there's an application,
the application fee,
which is 500, so that's gonna be as much as almost as the administrative fee.
but
You gotta charge something.
well, to that extent, I mean, there is going to be a
Staff
cost with,
time, everything.
the filing the 412A and all of that's generally done through the legal process, but there is a crossover where our IDA staff then sends that administrative or the 412A out to the taxing jurisdictions, and there is definitely a degree of work
There's
involved.
work that needs to be done that wouldn't need to be done if it didn't happen.
But the 500 annual admin fee still
Absolutely.
goes forward
Yeah.
on top of the one shot
Right.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Kevin, a question. Do we feel that this is going to help for some of these projects where I don't know if it's just that they don't know on their end that they're supposed to do this, and it happens after, we have to then, do this after they've made a transaction or something like that. Is this gonna help at all to catch some of those?
Well,
that
the
may-
idea, I think that was the intention, is to kind of disclose it up front that, hey, if you're going to be, packaging these up and selling them down the road, there's gonna be some additional
I think
steps.
a lot of times we do talk to them about that. We're like, are you planning on holding? Oh yeah, we plan on holding, and then, coincidentally, right after it's done, they sell it to someone else. So
I think they're all kind of programmed to talk
Yeah.
that way.
yeah,
The only ones, and even they did it. The Summit Solar folks, they actually ended up bringing in who was it, Goldman Sachs, right, as their equity partner.
but at least this way they know what the costs are to do that transaction.
Yeah, and I've not incurred any pushback. I don't think Kevin or I have in any of these phone calls we participated in where somebody has pushed back on any costs that
No,
were being
not at all.
charged, or, I mean, heck, in some cases they
Pretty nominal.
right, and I mean, in some cases they say, "Is that all? Is that it?"
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So anyway, that's the proposal.
So should we make it 0.5%?
What's that?
Should we make it 0.5%? I mean, if that's not, is it enough, Mike? To justify,
Hey, guys, this is Tim. If I could, we've seen a couple more of the solar plans go through the county and through the municipalities instead of going to the IDA. I think we had 2 more in the last 2 months. I just want to be careful that we don't create. Again, I agree. I want to get paid for this, but if we just don't want to make it too much where it becomes something where it encourages them even more to go through. The county does not charge administrative charges at all, so that's something to keep in mind too. Which I brought up a couple times to the county that there should be some sort of administrative fee schedule, but there currently is not. So just want to make that point.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, this is for ones that have already been done, and this would just be an additional cost if they wanted to transfer. Correct? This is
Well, but it's to going forward.
Yeah.
So every pilot agreement that's involved in a solar project would have this language added to it.
Yeah, I think that the 1/4 is fair, because then if they look at it like we know we're going to eventually sell this, they look at it then as a 1%, because there's the 3/4 and then the 1%. So or actually it's a little different, but I mean the way because it's not 1/4 of the project cost, but
Right.
But it seems like that's in the grand scheme of these things, that's a pretty nominal cost to them.
I think it's a good start, and if we need to address it down the road or at a later date, we can. Okay, so I guess, I'll be looking for a motion on the provisions for the solar policy, or solar pilot agreement. So do I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, motion by Nick Canali, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Morris Sorbello, and the, solar pilot agreement, the
Before we
provision
vote,
Kevin
Gary,
put in.
I want to raise an issue or a question
yep.
about effectiveness, because we have apps in process, we have apps that have only had I guess everybody's had their final approving resolutions this point as of today.
Yeah.
But we do have apps in process, but also projects that haven't closed. So the pilot agreement has not yet been agreed to. So where in that chain do we implement this?
My recommendation would be if it's approved today, effective immediately, and even the pilot projects that haven't closed yet, I don't, all but, I think 1 or 2 of them, we've circulated draft
Yeah.
provisions. We don't have any that's like imminent closing dates next
Right.
week and it's all done, and it would not be fair
So
to
this
change
would
it.
only be inclusive in the pilot agreement document.
Correct. The
Yeah.
pilot agreement itself, from this point forward, would add this Article 7 provision, even the ones that are have indicated that they want to close before the end of the year.
Yeah, okay.
That would be my recommendation. Just make it effective.
Even if we've already circulated a draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't see anyone pushing back on this.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the, solar pilot agreement provisions, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the provision is carried. Okay, nice job, Kevin.
you.
Okay, so now I think we need to go into an executive session.
We do have an item under other business that
Okay,
we
yep.
could discuss now, I think, Gary, in the
Sure,
spirit of what
yeah.
you're doing, which is the OYA solar.
Yep.
So we recently, well, here, right line. Back in September of 2020, we approved a project in town of Sandy Creek, which is OYA Pulaski LLC. It's a solar project, 3.5 megawatts. It's well under development, and they are looking to do exactly what Kevin was describing, is bring basically the operating LLC that's building the site in Sandy Creek remains the same name and everything. It shifts on OYA's org chart, so OYA ends up with the member 100% of the kind of managing interest, and then the new partner coming in as a tax equity investor, which is Green. It's a affiliate of a company called Greenprint, which is basically an equity investor company. They would have the kind of investor member benefits, so there'll be joint ownership between OYA's group of companies and the new investor, and OYA would continue to manage the project. So they'd be essentially in management control with some agreement with the other partner.
So are we looking to allow this to happen?
Yeah, it's a simple consent because there isn't really a change in the operating companies, no public hearing required. It's a consent of this transfer of membership interest from one, now an entity, a holding company that's wholly owned by OYA and its kind of affiliates, and then the other one be split ownership by OYA and then the new investor. Yeah. Much like other transactions we've seen before.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you have anything to add to this, Kevin?
No, in fact, this one, that's why we kept it a little broad, because in my opinion, this one would just, it wouldn't even generate a new pilot agreement. You know,
probably wouldn't.
yeah.
They're all closed on this one.
We already closed on it. It's the same company. It's OYA. It's the
Right,
Howard
membership
membership.
also. Yeah.
Right. It's just
Yeah,
this,
'cause you don't reference the membership in the
No,
pilot.
no.
Right?
no, it's just the company itself.
So we've had Barclay Damon drop a resolution to kind of authorize this transfer of or assignment of membership interest. But
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to allow a change of ownership or a transfer of ownership?
yes,
Is that how you want it phrased?
an assignment of membership interest.
Assignment of membership
Yeah.
interest, okay? Do I have a motion on OYA assignment of membership interest?
I'll make it.
Motion by Nick, do I have a second? I'll second it. Okay, further discussion? Kevin, the towns and stuff are all made aware of this, right?
Not necessarily,
Not necessarily?
because again, the operating company doesn't change. So that's the operating company that has, for example, the building permit with,
So all the
Down to
terms
Sandy Creek,
and everything
yeah.
that were agreed on are still,
and the
Like decommissioning,
decommissioning would still be in
everything,
place.
all
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's still-
absolutely, because it would be the obligation of the operating company there, the OYA Pulaski LLC.
any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, carried. Any other business, further business?
That I'm aware of.
Okay, Michael?
No.
Kevin? Good?
No, thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go into executive session. And, so I have a motion, do I have a motion to
Oh,
go
we
into?
have to do this. Yeah, we could do the motion though now.
We gotta do the motion stuff,
Yeah.
right?
I'll make
Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Oh, Lynn's not online.
10.
Morris, do I have a second?
10 seconds.
Seconded by Nick Canali. We have a go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And what time are we going in?
10:10.
And Kevin, the reason we're going into executive session?
To discuss the financial history of a particular individual or corporation.
Okay.
Did we ever get Lynn's not on the phone, is it?
No. All right, we're ready to go, Gary. We're live.
Okay, we're coming out of executive session. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
I'll make it.
Motion by Morris Sabello, seconded by Nick Canale. Any discussion? All those in favor of coming out of executive session?
Alright,
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried, and what time, Jim?
11:05.
11:05. Okay, we have a few items that we need to vote on, coming out of executive session. The first one is Woody's on 37, a subordination request. Do I have a motion on that, please? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Gary Toth, second by Morris Sabello on the subordination request on Woody's on 37 LLC. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Maple Hollow Farms, a loan deferment request for 6 months. Do I have a motion to grant that request?
I'll make it.
Motion by Morris Cervello, seconded by Gary Toth. Motion seconded by Barry Trimble. Motion by Morris Cervello, seconded by Barry Trimble on the Maple Hollow Farm loan deferment request for 6 months. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, the evaluation of board performance, the summary results that we discussed. Do I have a motion to accept the evaluation and submit it?
I'll make it.
Okay, motion by Nick Canale. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Gary Toth. Is there any discussion on the evaluation? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the evaluation is carried and we will submit it. And the last one is our delinquent loan report. Do I have a motion to accept the delinquent loan report as submitted?
I'll make it.
Motion by Nick Canale. Do I have a second?
Here's a second.
Okay, seconded by Barry Trimble. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that covers all the, did I miss one? I think we're good. Okay, the next item, is there any other business to discuss? Okay, the next item is, our next meeting.
Well, the question is, how do we fit it in? I've got some dates, they may or may not work, anywhere from the December 28th through the December 30th.
Tough week, Mike.
Huh?
It's a tough week.
I know, everything's a tough week. Before Christmas is a tougher week.
I can join by phone. I'll try to. I gotta ask you more about that.
So you're talking Tuesday the 28th or Wednesday the 29th, right?
I can do any one.
Which day's better? I know you said you had inventory on one day or,
I'm doing it on Mondays now, so
okay.
either one's fine.
How about you,
I'm
Ken?
good. Either.
Which ones you feel is better?
Wednesday's better for me.
Wednesday? What about, Wednesday the 29th? Tim, you good with that?
Sounds good.
How about you, Barry?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, what time do you wanna do it? 9 o'clock? Earlier?
9 o'clock's good with me.
Okay, 9 o'clock on Wednesday the 29th. Work for everybody?
I'll probably be calling in. I'll be in Buffalo for that week. I'll call in.
Okay. Hope you're not going to a football game.
Oh gosh, don't even bring it up.
On Wednesday,
I was out there a
unless
couple
they're
weeks
playing
ago.
Thursday.
Huh?
Unless they're playing Thursday night.
Okay, so our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, December 29th at 9 o'clock. Correct?
Sounds good.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss? I guess a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Motion by Morris Sorbello, seconded by Gary Toth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
So where is this meeting?